Welcome into the greatest post-game show on turf. Matthew Hargrove here up in the nest alongside my partner Brendan Reilly. It was good to be back in the nest, back at Wade Stadium after the All-Star break, but the Duluth Huskies came into this ball game today against the Willmar Stingers, desperately needing a victory, a 4-game losing streak, and they did not get that today. 11-4 was the final score. Willmar with the win, all because of a 7-run top of the 7th for the Stingers. It just can't happen, Brendan Reilly.
No, it was like what we saw last night in Bismarck. It was that 9-run 8th inning that ended up spelling troubles for the Huskies. That game was tied at 4-4. Huskies were ahead in that top of the 7th inning, and then Bismarck just exploded for 7 runs. And from there, it's just really, you can't really come back from that. No. Especially if you're a lineup, it's just you can't come back from that, and that's really where things spelled trouble. Johnny Guzman gave you a great start today. He might have given up the 4 runs, but he was a lot better than what those 4 runs showed in his final stat line. And for him, he has to maybe be a little bit frustrated. He came out of the game in line for the win, but ends up now picking up the no decision after he gets pulled after that double from Brady Council ran him out of the game. Marcus Pointer coming out to give him the hook. He probably thought that he wanted to stay in and attack the rest of the bottom of the order before it got to the top of the order once again, but he ended up getting the hook, and then from there, things just really started to fall off.
Well, talking about that final stat line for Johnny Guzman, he went 6 1/3 innings pitched. He gave up the 4 runs like you mentioned. He had the 7 strikeouts. The slider was maybe the best we've seen it the entire year. It was a shame that 4th run, it was on him. He gave up the double, but because of the relief appearance from Oscar Lipe, the newly acquired Husky out of the pen, the lefty thrower, he ended up allowing that run to score, which gave the 4th run to Johnny Guzman. As now we take a look at the game recap. Let's take a look at some of the highlights for today's game, this afternoon's contest, and the Huskies got out going early. You get the RBI double from Mike Bovey, and then Peyton Powell getting in on the action.
Well, the Huskies coming off, getting home at 7 a.m., and it didn't show it early on as Charlie Ree able to come through with an RBI single as well. But there, Willmar, they got the scoring started in that 4th inning, and then from there, the game started really tightening up.
This was the game changer. You get the 2-run bomb from the Stinger right fielder from the University of Alabama, showing you why that's SEC baseball right there.
William Haminer just going the other way for his first home run. He was great all day, and now, the Huskies are able to bounce back. They're able to get the RBI sac fly from Brian Brecker, and from there, it's showing that maybe this Huskies team is starting to show more fight like we saw early on in the second half of this 7th inning. That's where things really got away from the Huskies.
Yeah, this is where the nightmare begins. We mentioned Oscar Lipe. Didn't even get 2 outs. Talking about his stat line, just went 1/3 of an inning, allowed 5 runs on 4 walks, and obviously that's been a big issue for this Duluth Huskies team. But once the Huskies gave up those 7 runs in the 7th inning, and you take into account that they were coming back from that really long road trip coming back from Bismarck, they just looked really sluggish, and it was basically game over.
Yeah, they just looked gassed at the end of that, and for the Huskies now, they have some time. Maybe it's a good thing it was a day game here today. They can now go back and be able to get some sleep, get some rest before getting ready to go at 1:05 tomorrow afternoon against these Willmar Stingers. But Matt, like you said, they just kind of ran out of gas towards the middle half of that ball game going into the back half. Saw the bats start to go a little quiet as that game went on, and for the Huskies, the pitching, it just wasn't able to be there after Johnny Guzman gave them 6 1/3.
But that's the thing, Brendan, is you can't be complaining about it because the situation, you can't control it. And the 1:05 start time, it definitely helps, doesn't help with the sleep. But again, you just cannot control that if you are the Duluth Huskies. And talking about tomorrow's game against the Willmar Stingers, the Huskies have the All-Star in Will McIntyre out on the bump. He had the scoreless inning in Mankato on Tuesday night in the All-Star game. And Will McIntyre, you can put down a pretty good bet that the Huskies are most of the time, it's going to be a very competitive game when McIntyre is towing the slab.
Now, his last time out, or his last start, that is, came against Mankato back about 2 weeks ago almost. He was able to go 6 innings, where the Huskies picked up an 8-3 victory. He gave up the 3 runs in that ball game, but he was great that day. You saw him be able to work through a scoreless inning at ISG Field in the All-Star game. So for him, he's just has to go out tomorrow. He has to be the backstop for this pitching rotation, in for this team. Now on a 5-game losing streak. They need a big outing from the big guy from Arkansas tomorrow.
Now, I will ask you before we wrap things up here at Wade Stadium, the offense, I know towards the end of the game they were kind of sluggish, but at the end of the day, 4 runs and 8 hits, that's going to win you a pretty good amount of ball games. Mike Bovey and Peyton Powell each got 2 hits apiece in the ball game this afternoon. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of the offense today.
Well, I thought the offense definitely had a little bit of a response, especially early on in the ball game. They haven't been able to pick up more than 5 hits in the previous 3 games. They're able to come out and, like you said, pick up 8 hits. I thought the offense did a nice job. I thought the bats were there. They just missed out on a few opportunities here or there. But once you get into those final innings and it ends up being a 7-run 7th inning for the opposing team, you can really get down, not be able to come back from that. But I thought the bats did a good job responding here today after the past couple of games, and they'll have a lot of confidence going into the batter's box tomorrow, knowing that Will McIntyre is going to be out there.
Well, you mentioned it. It's kind of funny that the Duluth Huskies came out hot early and then nothing to show for it in the innings 7, 8, and 9, because what we've become accustomed to watching Duluth Husky baseball the entire summer is usually it's a slow start and then we see the comeback in the later innings. And it was a really back and forth game, but I think because of the long travel coming from Bismarck, they got back to Duluth, Minnesota at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock this morning. I think when you just bring in all those factors and the Stingers going up 11-4, it just spelled doom for the Duluth Huskies. That's going to do it for us up here in the Crow's Nest at Wade Stadium. We will be back at 1:05 tomorrow for the final game of this 2-game set between the Duluth Huskies and the Willmar Stingers. For myself, Matthew Hargrove, and my great partner, Brendan Reilly, you have been watching Duluth Huskies baseball on the Northwoods League Baseball Network.